So, the coronated Democratic presidential nominee, who may or may not win, the polls that I've seen definitely have her doing a lot better than Biden. But honestly, a ham sandwich could do a lot better than Biden. She gave a relatively decent speech. Again, better than Biden, but a ham sandwich could do better than Biden. Being better than Biden does not make somebody qualified to run the biggest empire on the face of the earth. I'm sorry. Like, I could do fairly better than Biden. Hell, I could do better than a lot of people. I could definitely do better than Kamala Harris. Anyways, let's see what Kamala Harris has to say, because as we know, correct politics doesn't just fall out of a coconut tree.
Donald Trump.
Okay, so they're really leaning in this whole diverse angle. Harris is black. Okay, under the standards of America, like the whole one drop rule and everything. Oh, what's up, mate? Kamala Harris is black. Well, technically, she's biracial. She's half East Indian and half Jamaican African. So, yes, Kamala Harris is black. But this whole identity politics shit, like, it doesn't matter. Politics in command means just that. Here is Kamala Harris. Oh, that's funny. I'm going to use that one. But more important than her rambling is the fact that she is apparently going to choose her vice presidential nominee. And Smart Money has it being Ben Shapiro. Wait, Ben Shapiro? Shapiro from Pennsylvania. Shapiro. Josh Shapiro. I'm sorry. Josh Shapiro, the Zionist governor of Pennsylvania. So a lot of people are saying that it's going to be him because she's going to be announcing in Philly, which is in Shapiro's home state. So let's see what else she has to say.
Donald Trump.
It would be funny as fuck if she shows Ben Shapiro, though.
On the other hand, has been talking a big game about securing.
Who would I have picked? Honestly, I would have picked Raphael Warnock. Just because, like, he's black and he has, like, he's basically Martin Luther King. A Gen X Martin Luther King. If I were Kamala Harris. If I were Black Red Guard, I probably would not be running for president. But if I were Kamala Harris, I'd probably go with Raphael Warnock because he has all of the identity politics points. And that's all that matters in American politics, right? Oops.
Donald Trump on the.
This guy has on a fucking shirt that says that little girl is me. Like, it's funny that Americans are constantly talking about a cult of personality in DPRK, in Venezuela, in Syria, and all these countries around the world, and yet you know absolutely nothing about this woman, and you're already wearing shirts with her face on them. You're holding up a sign that just says Kamala. Like, look at this venture capitalist looking dude over here.
On the other hand, has been talking a big game about securing our border, but he does not walk the walk.
So she's already talking like a Republican.
Or as my friend Quavo would say,
Quavo is not your friend. This is blatant, obvious pandering.
He does not walk it like he talks it.
And all of these people are going wild. Like, this is what it takes for you to vote for a person. Like fucking Adolf Hitler come out, he's like, he does not walk it like he talks it. And you all would just go fucking wild. This is how demagogues win. Like, is this a political rally or is this a sports event? Like, there's really not all that much of a difference. This is a show. This is a farce.
So look, our administration worked on the most significant border security bill in decades.
That's not something to be proud of.
Some of the most conservative Republicans in Washington, D.C. supported the bill.
Again, that's not something to be proud of.
Even
like, why do you want conservative Republicans to be on your side? Why do you want to do things that make conservative Republicans happy? I thought you were a liberal Democrat.
Border Patrol endorsed it. It was all set to pass. But at the last minute, Trump directed his allies in the Senate to vote it down. Right.
So you have a stadium full of Democrats that are cheering the voting down of a draconian border security bill. This is you all's queen, though. And there's a lot of DSA people rocking the fucking coconut tree shit. And this is your girl. This is who you want to be in office. This is who you want to administer the rotting, dying U.S. empire. Let's talk about a good politician for once. So I did my first canvassing today. I did for Cori Bush. Why did I go and canvass for Cori Bush? Well, for one, I do not want one of my city's congressional seats. I don't even live in Cori Bush's district. I live in Super Karen's district on Wagner. I live in her district, so I can't even vote for Cori. But it's important that the first be continued to be represented by somebody who actually gives a fuck about the people, not by Wes Bell, who's just going to be an APEC empty suit. So that's why I actually went out and wore my poor little size 13 feet out today, knocking on doors. Well, half the doors I couldn't even access because they were in locked apartment buildings. But anyways, I went out and did my bit and protracted primary canvas mouse tags. Yes, you can roast me all you want, but you cannot say that I haven't done my bit. So all the DSA writers are like, oh, do you even canvass? Do you even phone bank? Well, I haven't phone banked yet. I hate playing on the phone, but I have canvassed. You cannot say that I have not done my bit. If Cori Bush loses, which I hope to God she does not, you cannot say that Black Red Guard did not wear out his feet along with everybody else. Black Red Guard did indeed touch grass. You cannot say that I did not. Oh, yeah. I also met this cool person, not the guy on the right. That's EMAC. But Rashida Tlaib came to help us out a bit, and it was nice to see her. Yeah. An Irish American, a Black American, and a Palestinian American walking to its beautiful Episcopalian church. But yeah, got to hang out with her for a little bit. Good times. There's also a vigil for Sonia Massey. If you don't know what happened to her, you need to get hip. It will make you like sick as a dog. They literally murdered this woman. I believe I've talked about it before. They literally murdered this this mentally ill Black woman who literally called the police for help. And within like 5 minutes of arriving at her house, they had blown her brains out over a pot of boiling water that they asked her to take off the burner. Because why? Because this pig claimed that he was going to be scalded by hot water by this little 30-something-year-old Black lady. Obviously, he was full of shit. And one of the cops even had a Norse fascist rune tattooed on his arm. But yeah. The canvas was very sick. I wish you could have been there, Bryce. What awkward photo of me and EMAC? Well, EMAC takes awkward photos. I don't. EMAC's a good guy, even though he is in Socialist Majority Caucus. I mean, Settler Majority Caucus. I mean, Socialist Majority Caucus. It's a nice photo. Obviously, I'm the better looking one, but yeah, he's all right. He's never done anything to me. And yeah, you can obviously tell that we are the best of friends. That one. Yeah, we're the best of friends. He's like the Irish American version of me. Leave EMAC alone. So, in other news, Israel decided to drop a bunch of bombs on Beirut. Why? Because Israel seems determined to actualize its own destruction. They claim that they wanted to kill a Hezbollah commander that was responsible for a strike in the Golan Heights, the occupied Golan Heights. The Golan Heights actually belong to Syria, but Israel has occupied them for decades. So they did this, and they did not kill the guy that they're after, but they did kill one person and injured around 74 others. So if Israel has the right to defend itself from the whirlwind that it has sown and is now reaping, then does Lebanon not also have the right to defend itself? Like, you've literally been bombing this country for, like, Israel has been fighting wars in Lebanon for decades. They've killed thousands of Lebanese people. So why doesn't Lebanon have the right to defend itself? If Israel supposedly has the right to attack and slaughter innocents in Palestine, then why doesn't Lebanon have that same right to fight Israeli soldiers and defend its territory and its people? You cannot do this. You cannot just go around bombing other people's countries. I'm sorry. Something is going to have to give. What's going to have to give? Israel. Israel simply must be destroyed. It's just that simple, honestly. Like, there is no peaceful solution to this. It's a mad dog. It's a mad dog. It's a mad American dog. It's a mad British dog. It's a mad EU dog. It's a colonial outpost in the Middle East. It does all of these things because the United States it realizes benefits in keeping the Middle East unstable, in keeping it chaotic, in keeping it constantly at war. That's why the United States is going to back Israel to the hill. The United States knows what Israel has been doing. Biden is actually far to the right of Ronald fucking Reagan on this. Like, when Israel was doing all this shit in Lebanon back in the 80s, Reagan literally called and said, "What the fuck are you guys doing? Like, you guys are killing civilians. We don't hang out with butchers." This is Ronald fucking Reagan saying this. Biden, on the other hand, is carrying out this Hasbara propaganda campaign, basically saying shit that the Israelis don't even believe anymore, that all that beheaded baby shit. Biden claimed that he had seen a video, that he had seen video and pictures of this happening. But the Israelis themselves, they don't even claim to have videos and pictures. So you have Biden carrying water for lies that the Israelis don't even believe. Yeah, that's how far right this guy is. That's why the Democrats replaced him, because they knew that he was going to lose. Why? Because not just because of the horrible Palestine position, but he's a dotard. He's in the dotage of his life. This man needs to be in a fucking retirement home. He needs to be sitting in Delaware on his front porch, rocking back and forth, drinking lemonade, throwing rocks at reporters that come to interview him about his failed presidency. Not like, this is elder abuse. That's why he stepped down. Like, this is what's going to define his presidency: madness, stupidity, and chaos like this. Yeah, that's what's happening there. And you also have riots in Israel. They're literally storming Israeli military prisons to free Israeli soldiers who are accused of it. And when an Israeli is accused of something, that means that they did it, okay? Like, there's no accused when you're talking about Israeli war crimes. They did that shit. So the Knesset, which is basically their parliament, was arguing over shit like this. Is it legitimate to insert a stick in a person's rectum, aka commit sodomy? And one of the hardliners was like, shut up. Yes, if he is a nukhba, everything is legitimate to do. So apparently that's a racial slur that they use for Palestinians. And so, yeah, this is what they're arguing about. They're arguing over whether or not sodomy in the context of committing war crimes is legitimate and legal and just. And apparently it is. There we go. So another reason why I went out to campus for Cori Bush today is that her polls are narrowing. Wes Bell is still apparently in the lead. Here we go. So Wesley Bell is 48%. Cori Bush is 42%. It's still a substantial increase from February, which had her down like 30 points. So door knocking, and she's been running her own ads, is working. But you have to keep in mind that AIPAC has dumped over $2 million in this race. Why? Because they see this like, okay, these people are strategic. These people are smart. So these people have done their research, and they know that Cori is vulnerable. She has, hold on, stupid fucking. Anyways, so they know that she's vulnerable. They know that her position on Palestine has left her easily attacked. And that's why they're dumping money in this race. It did the same thing to Jamal Bowman. who I despise, but we also have to keep in mind that AIPAC literally bought his seat. I would have preferred to have seen him primaried by a leftist, not by that asshole Latimer, who is a racist and an all-around bad person, but I digress. My local news site seems determined for me to, you know what, fuck it. I'm not going to disable my ad blocker to read your bullshit. And then you have people arguing about the poll. But anyways, big thread about why Kamala Harris sucks. Let's read part of it. Who is Joe Biden's handpicked successor? And this is funny. Like, people are complaining about the Venezuelan election because precinct level votes are not being released by the Maduro administration. And they haven't gotten them yet. They're going to release them when they get them because, okay, the Maduro people, the Venezuelan government, they know that they have to keep people happy. And people are also lying, claiming that the Mexican and Brazilian and Colombian and Chilean governments are demanding that Maduro release all these results. Okay, they still stand by Maduro. Okay, like they're not saying this guy should be removed or anything like this. So there are a lot of DSA rightists that are like, oh, this is bad. Well, why doesn't he do this? Like, look, we live in a country that is actively prosecuting and actively helping out in a genocide. That should be our primary focus. No. That should be our primary focus. Did I freeze? Yes, I froze. What the fuck? Nicolas Maduro is a trot and a capitalist. Okay, who cares about that right now? That's not important. What's important is the fact that the United States government is actively trying to fuck up his country. That's what's important. That's what we need to fight right now. You can argue about who is and who is not a capitalist, rotor later. Hold on. Trying to fix my fucking cam. Hold on. There we go. I'm back. I'm sorry about that. Anyways, so yeah. Has Maduro done some dumb shit? Yeah. Like he tried to claim and conquer 2/3 of Guyana. Honestly, I think every Venezuelan government has tried to do that, but that was a dumb thing to do. But thankfully he seems to have dropped that. So, what shitty things has Kamala done? Like, what makes Kamala Harris who she is? Before she became vice president, she launched a career as basically a top cop, basically a female version of Wesley Bell. She campaigned on the right-wing position of laughing at the idea of legalizing marijuana, despite the fact that even Republicans wanted to legalize marijuana. Kamala Harris did not.
Ron Gold has said that he is for the legalization of marijuana recreationally. Your thoughts on that?
That he is entitled to his opinion.
She's to the right of fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger. If I recall correctly, Arnold Schwarzenegger wanted to legalize. He literally said that marijuana is a leaf. It's not a drug.
Ask about your position on legalizing marijuana.
I'm not a proponent of that, but I know there are a lot of people who are. It's not my issue.
It is not your issue. Why are you running for office or something? And okay. And yeah, she has been to the right of her opponents consistently, as we just saw with her ranting and raving about the fucking border like Trump. She had 2,000 people locked up on marijuana charges. One might counter that's a job of the Attorney General to defend state law regardless of reviews. Yet in stark contrast, Harris refused to defend the anti-gay Proposition 8 in court, calling it a proposition that was found by a judge to be unconstitutional. While she was DA, she was responsible for 40% of all California's felony drug arrests of black women, with 50 times the rate of other counties. 1 in 10 of her black constituents was arrested in 1 year alone. Okay, this should be enough to like disqualify her. No black person should be supporting this shit. Like, this is like Joe Biden on steroids. Joe Biden wrote the crime bill, and Kamala Harris would have wrote a crime bill had she been a senator at the time. She locked up so many people, the Supreme Court ruled that her prisons were unconstitutionally overcrowded. She not only refused to release folks, she argued that her prison labor, aka legal slavery by definition, was too profitable to give up. And now she's joking about fucking knowing Quavo and all that bullshit. But this is your queen. This is our progressive savior. This is who we want to run a country. This is who we want in charge of Yankee imperialism for the next 4 or 8 years. Also, if you meet a black preacher that dresses like he's in 1962, run. Don't trust that guy.
On last Friday, all of them were in support of Wesley Bell. I've talked to dozens of additional clergy throughout the district. Many of them are supporting Wesley Bell. Not just clergy, you got elected officials. You have a lot of people who are not speaking out on this race. They don't want to be labeled. They don't want to be called names. They don't want to be ostracized.
But then don't do things that'll have you called names. Like, you can avoid all this shit. First of all, you're not Martin Luther King. You're not Ralph Abernathy. You're not marching with either one of them. So I don't know why you're still dressed like this. It's a fucking costume. That's what this is. You're wearing a fucking costume. So you come out here with this costume on and you promote a person that's objectively bad for black working class St. Louis, and you expect people to take you seriously. Like, this guy has a history in St. Louis. He moved from Montreal, Canada, because he supposedly, meaning that he did, beat the fuck out of his wife. So he's a spousal abuser. So he moved to St. Louis seeking a fresh start. Actually ran into a guy at the campus who knew his brother in South Carolina. Apparently a really good dude. So this is apparently the bad apple of the family. He beat his wife in Montreal. He came here to eat off of Ferguson. So he came here. And now he's doing this. He ran for alderman. He lost. And now here he is trying to hitch his wagon onto a new fucking train. There we go. That's Darryl Gray. Nobody likes this guy. Nobody trusts this guy.
All of my life, I've spoken truth to power.
All of your life, you've beaten your wife.
I'm not going to stop because it's a friend of mine. Cori, I have a huge amount of respect for her. I struggled with my decision, but
I'll be back.
believe I made the best decision for St. Louis, even though it might jeopardize my friendship.
And last question for you. What kind of encouragement will people hear in the pews at church on this Sunday?
I'm going to tell people to support the person that supports you. As a pastor, I can't tell my members who to vote for, but I do want them to be informed. I want them to pay attention to what is being said, all of it. I want my congregants to be informed congregants. And my church is a 100% voter registration church. Every person in my church who's eligible to vote is registered to vote. And I'm going to be pushing that all of them vote. We want everybody to vote. We want proper voter education. And we need people to vote, not just in the primary, but definitely in the general election. Democracy.
Okay, so in the general election, here's the thing about Mo 1, district that both Cori Bush and Wes Bell are running to represent. Whoever wins the Democratic primary basically gets that seat. Nobody in Mo 1 votes for Republicans. So whoever wins his primary next Tuesday, whether it be Cori Bush or Wes Bell, is going to basically win the seat. It's a safe Democratic seat. Why? Because it has St. Louis City, a safe Democratic city, and many of the more liberal suburbs, working class suburbs, North County, Mid County, Clayton, all that. Those people vote Democrat. So this is really a race between Wesley Bell and Cori Bush. We cannot let Wesley Bell win because he's basically an empty stuffed suit bought by AIPAC. We cannot allow our city to fall prey to somebody like that. He doesn't give a shit about working class St. Louis. He doesn't give a shit about working class St. Louis. He doesn't give a shit about anybody but himself. And Cori Bush has actually lived this shit that she's talking about. She's lived the shit that she's talking about. And that's why we need politicians like that. As long as we're going to have politicians, we need people who actually give a fuck. Today is Memorial Week for the martyrs of the Indian Revolution. The CPP issued a solidarity statement. So Memorial Week is basically a tribute to those who have fallen in the struggle for new democracy and socialism in India and the Philippines, of course, all over the world. Also, the Amazon Labor Union unseated the crooked Chris Smalls-led clique. So you have a reform caucus that's basically trying to unseat Chris Smalls' basically dictatorial authority over this. You've got Connor Spence is the new president of ALU, International Brotherhood of Teamsters Local 1. I don't know what Smalls has said about it. I really don't care. But like when Smalls first hit the scene, like, okay, you got this guy. He came up from nowhere, the rank and file, and now he's like basically wants to be a celebrity. That hits a lot of people's heads the wrong way. That's why you have to remain rooted and grounded in your people. It seems to be what the Bolivarian Revolution in Venezuela has done. The dude looks like a mafia man. No, that's how black preachers used to dress back in the 60s. He thinks he's Martin Luther King, but he's not. Martin Luther King had some semblance of principles. DSA is broken. The ultra-left won. Groundwork and socialist majority should split. Throw yourselves into elections until November, and then we can build a new era committed to democratic socialism. These people are just so fucking arrogant. Okay, if you want to split, if you want to leave, go ahead. Go the fuck ahead. Who cares? So more on this. All 15 of the Democratic Reform slate in the Amazon Labor Union, 4 candidates for the executive board and 11 for the union's constitution committee have won local 1 elections. That's good. You cannot have a working functional union without democracy. This is what I'm reading, by the way. Orosanmi Burton's Tip of the Spear, Black Radicalism, Prison Repression, and the Long Attica Revolt. As the child of someone who served time in prison, I dedicate myself to studying prison activism and prison struggle to the best of my ability. Like, it's important to know what our ancestors went through and what people are still going through. And people write prisoners off, that they see them as irretrievably lumped, or that because they're isolated from society that they're useless. No, prisoners need to be organized too. These people are basically slaves. American leftists should be more concerned about the fact that our country will continue to send weapons to kill Palestinians instead of joining the U.S. State Department and litigating the Venezuelan election. Like, here's my thing, okay? Here's my take on all of this. Nothing you say from the United States matters. Nothing you say from the United States matters. We cannot make lines for other countries. We cannot demand that they bend the knee, and it's just ridiculous. Okay, like, we have our own problems. We're literally funding and supporting a genocide in this country. Your tax dollars, every time you get paid, they take money off your pay. That's what it's going to. It's going to pay Boeing, to pay Lockheed Martin, to pay Raytheon, to pay all these defense contractors to make weapons to send to Israel. That's where your money's going. That should be our concern. This should also be our concern. This is from Jacobin. Jacobin either publishes really good shit or it publishes really bad shit. So Devin Thomas O'Shea, a homeboy of mine, he's from St. Louis. So my thing with Bill is, like, why would you drop out of a race against Republican Josh Hawley, an objectively bad person, a really, really bad person, and now he's trying to take Cori Bush's seat? Why? Because he was paid. He was paid to do this. He could have continued to challenge the right. He could have challenged the fucking Josh Hawleys of the world. But instead, this guy, who is basically a Republican, he attended a $2,000 per ticket event welcoming President George Bush to St. Louis, Missouri. This was in 2006. I was 12 years old. So ever since I was a literal child, this guy's been floppeting. He managed a campaign of Mark Byrne, a conservative Republican running for the Missouri 1 congressional seat on promises to oppose abortion and gun control. He lost to Lacey Clay. In 2014, he changed course for political reasons and marched in the Ferguson protests after the police murder of Michael Brown. Many people didn't know Bill before this. Many people who went through the Ferguson movement actually believe Bill's bullshit. a lot of people who went through the Ferguson movement were out ringing the bell to get him elected prosecutor the first time. So in 2018, he ran for St. Louis County prosecutor as a progressive Democrat. He channels the intense desire for a change in Missouri's draconian criminal justice system, and he won. He overthrew Bob McCulloch, who had failed to indict Darren Wilson, who killed Michael Brown over petty shoplifting. He promised, this is why people voted for him. He promised he would bring changes and charges against Wilson. But in August of 2020, he changed his mind and decided not to. This is a betrayal, said Justin Hansford and a lot of other people. He is the director of the Thurgood Marshall Civil Rights Center at Harvard University. There are a lot of people who spend a lot of time and energy on this guy, specifically because they expected him to, at the very least, reopen the case and let the family have their day in court. He refused to do that. He refused to do that. But still, his profile rose in the Democratic Party, and he decided he wanted to challenge Hawley. And then he decided to drop out of the race against Hawley, something that's actually pretty dope, and he decided to run against Cori Bush. Last June, he called Cori Bush. He called Cori Bush and said that he would not run against her. Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly.
This is, hold on.
Exactly. No,
It's so fucking low, I can barely hear it.
Well, and then just think about it. Like I said, if you decide at some point that you do want the endorsement, then okay, we can talk about that. But I just want you to, like, I think, yeah, buddy.
Yeah, so they sound like old friends. They sound like old friends. So this is a fucking stab in the back. That's what this is. He stabbed her in the back, and now he's trying to take her seat with millions of dollars of AIPAC money. Before 2014, Cori was employed as a nurse. She ran on a platform advocating Black maternal health, abortion rights, and diverting money from law enforcement to public services. Basically, all good DSA shit. She secured millions of dollars in emergency funding after catastrophic flooding fucked our city up bad. I remember I was at work when that happened, actually. My job was actually in the basement of an old church. It was at a shelter. And when that shit was happening, all that huge fucking amounts of rain were coming down, my shelter was literally flooded. Like, I think there's a video on my phone still of it was like the whole fucking Mississippi River was pouring into the basement of this old ass church. And I remember me and my coworker and like half the clients, I woke up half the clients to help mop all this water off the floor and push all this shit out the door. And we had just gotten the fucking shelter cleaned up, and here it comes again. So I didn't resign, but I left in disgust. And then, of course, I didn't quit my job, but still, I needed a couple of days off because that was, yeah. So now her job is to prepare us for the future, which promises more extreme weather that will compound the manifold environmental issues that face our state and hit working class people hardest. Because we're due for more floods. We're due for more floods. We're due for more tornadoes, all types of shit, because the Republicans and the ruling class don't give a fuck about working class people and what we go through. Mo 1 is home to large assembly facilities for the Boeing Corporation, with many military industrial contractors scattered throughout. On April 15th, pro-Palestinian activists blocked the gates of the Boeing manufacturing plant in St. Charles, Missouri. That's a pretty wealthy suburb of St. Louis. Boeing manufactures weapons from drones to missiles to jets, many of which are used by the IDF in its assault on Gaza. The following month, another round of protests occurred in St. Louis, also related to Boeing. In May, WashU students formed a Palestinian solidarity encampment. In response, the university declared the encampment illegal and deployed police to aggressively arrest the protesters. They were brutalizing assaults, sophomore Leon Diaz said. It was jarring to see my friends being treated like empty sacks of organs, entirely dehumanized, with no respect for their dignity. Over 100 students, teachers, and activists were cuffed, many of which are my friends and comrades. Bush aligned herself with the protesters, saying solidarity with anti-war student activists at WashU. Megan Green, president of the St. Louis Board of Aldermen, who was also at the campus today, told Jacobin Congresswoman Bush organized a call with all the students impacted, faculty in the days after the brutality to hear the stories and how Washington University's heavy-handed response impacted them. She immediately contacted the university to attempt to open up a dialogue between the administration and students. It is this activity. Cori Bush is being punished because of her solidarity with Palestine. That's why she's being punished. That's why they're trying to take her seat away. That's why they're trying to take her seat away. That's why we cannot allow her to take her seat away. That's why we cannot allow them to take her seat away. I'm sorry. So if you live in St. Louis, if you live in Mo 1, if you live in her district, you need to get your ass out and vote on Tuesday. Yes, I'm a Maoist. Yes, I'm saying this. This is too important to stand aloof and be like, oh, well, the bourgeois system is going to do what it's going to do. No. Okay. You have an actual chance to help a comrade keep her seat. I consider Cori Bush a comrade. Why? Because she actually gives a fuck. Like, she governs basically how I would govern. So if you want to keep somebody who would govern like Black Red Guard would govern, like anybody with a brain and a heart would govern, if you want that, you need to go out and vote for Cori Bush next Tuesday. Okay? Seriously. Like, playtime is over. I know some of you guys have been listening to me for years, and you're like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? Okay? Look, Trump is coming back. We all know that. Maybe Kamala will beat him. Maybe Kamala won't. If Kamala gets in office, she's basically going to be Trump, except a black and a woman. So either way, we're in for some shit. Either way, we're in for some shit, and you need to get ready. Either way, we're in for some shit, and you need to get ready. Cori Bush needs to keep her seat, because if Wes Bell gets in office, basically we're going to have another Lazy Clay. I call him Lazy Clay because the motherfucker was lazy. He didn't do shit for St. Louis. He didn't do shit for his people. The year I graduated from college, I gave the motherfucker an honorary degree at my alma mater. So we need fighting electeds in office. Cori Bush and Rashida Tlaib are probably the only two people who I would go out and canvass for. The only two people who I would get out and donate money to. And it takes a lot to get my Maoist ass to go out and put blisters on my feet, knocking on perfect strangers' doors. That's how important this race is. So get your ass out and vote. In November, don't vote for Kamala. But if you live in Mo 1, you need to go out and vote for Cori Bush this Tuesday. Seriously. That's my 2 cents for the night. Now I'm going to go and soak my feet in some Epsom salts because nobody told me that canvassing puts blisters on your fucking feet. Peace.